Hey, what's up guys, John here. 30% of Americans have officially declared bill strike.
According to Bankrate, 56 million people have been in debt for at least a year.
Falling behind in some cases on expenses like car loans and credit cards.
They're no longer paying their bills, whether it be credit cards, auto loans, student loans, their rent, their mortgage payments, personal, they're just done. They're over it. They're completely done. Now, when you look at this, you look at the economy, look at the world we're in right now, we live in almost a modern day version of Hunger Games, where people are just trying to survive. They're trying to make it to the next inning. But when you look at what is happening right now, you look at this new inflation report that just came out, it's showing one thing and one thing clearly. Interest rates are going to continue to go higher, and we're going to see millions of Americans continue to default. Now, what I think is going to happen is this number is going to go from 30% of Americans having stopped paying their bills to 40 to 50%. But the big question is, what happens then? Well, I believe lenders are going to continue to foreclose. They're going to start to repossess more cars. We're going to start seeing people being forced to sell off assets. And there's always going to be a buyer on the other side of that transaction, willing to put their money on the table down for the right price. And that's what I think is going to happen. We're going to see the rich get a hell of a lot richer the next couple of years, and we're going to see some people in the middle class climb up to the top 5%, make a lot of money, and we're going to see the 95% really just beg for scraps from the rich. It's a sad reality, but this is the America we now live in. I'm going to show you what's going on to position you so you can make the right decisions for your own life and put yourself in a position where you can capitalize on the inevitable, what's happening here in America. Please hit the like button, YouTube will share the content, educate more people about what's going on. Look at this. And also, today's video is sponsored by GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, or any negative item on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com. My company, we'd love to help you, give you a free strategy session. Click the link in the description, just below this video. You can schedule a call, see how we can help you. Maybe we can, maybe we can't. If not, maybe we can give you some free advice to help your situation. Take a look at this. So, nearly 30% of Americans behind on debt payments in the largest metros. Consumers falling behind on debt like credit cards, auto loans, mortgages, and student loans. So look at this. 56 million credit card holders have been in debt for at least a year. 56 million. Like, that is absolutely unreal. Personal finance firm found 49% of credit card users carry a balance from month to month. 49%. I'm like, wow, that's absolutely 9 million borrowers have not made their first student loan payment October 1st, right? So it's 40% of all student loans, of the 22 million here, have not made that payment. So going from October 1st all the way to mid-November. So what does this mean? That means January 2nd, basically last week, this is all going on everyone's credit report, is a late payment. It's going on everyone's credit report is a late payment. Their credit score is going to absolutely get obliterated. Talking 80, 100 points, upwards of 180 point drop on just that one late pay. So here's the big concern here though, is that this inflation, this report that just came out a couple hours ago, says that it increased more than expected. And Jerome Powell said that it could delay the prospect of 3 interest rate cuts for the Federal Reserve 2 hours ago, New York Post. What does this mean? This means that things are not going to get easier for the consumer. They're going to get harder. They're going to get much, much harder. Here's what I mean by that. Right now, credit card interest rates hit a record high. They hit a record high, and 23.9%. Now, when you look at this came out 1/11/2024, right? So this just came out today. And this situation, if you have $5,000 in credit card debt, right, which is not a lot, the average American has closer to $6,000, at 23.9% interest rate, and you're paying $200 a month, you pay $1,987 in interest, 2 years and 11 months. Now, let me ask you, what do you think that number would be if you have $10,000 in credit card debt? Because that's probably closer to what a lot of people are living in big cities, right? The cost of living is higher, more debt. Now, if you have $10,000, do you think that number is closer to $4,000, or do you think it's more? Well, you'd be shocked. So it goes from $1,987 to 2 years and 11 months to $45,000 in just interest, and goes from 2 years to 23 years, 2 decades to pay it off at $200 a month. 2 decades. You're going to see millions of Americans continue to look up, how much they're paying on their interest rate on their credit card, and then start to do the numbers. You'd be like, oh, I'm not going to get out of credit card debt until 2043. No, I'm not doing it. I'm done. I'm canceling it. I'm not going to pay. You're going to see a lot of people do that. That's the wrong decision. The wrong decision. Because there's a lot of credit cards out there that will offer you a 0% balance transfer for 12 to 24 months, no interest. So if you can take one of those, you have to have a certain credit score, but if you can take one of those, you'll put yourself in a position to where you can, get out of debt, maybe in a year, maybe in 2 years, but you'll be able to save your credit score so you can get funding, so you can invest. Because once you default on your bills and you just stop paying, 7 years is how long it will likely stay on there. Sometimes even longer, because sometimes what creditors will do is right before the expiration, they'll sell the debt, and then that new buyer of that debt will then try to refurnish it on your credit report. You know, it's not legal, but we see this happen. We see some creditors trying to do these shady practices. So you don't want to just default, and you don't want to just see your credit score and all that just kind of fall apart. So look at this. American households racked up a record $17.29 trillion in debt last year, driven by mortgage, credit card, and student loan balances. According to the latest numbers from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, now fresh data indicates an alarmingly high percentage of consumers began falling behind on their payments at the same time. A new study, this is by LendingTree, found 29.6% of residents in the nation's top 100 largest metros were behind on at least one debt payment during the third quarter of 2023. I mean, this is right before they had the data for student loans, because student loans came out, that was fourth quarter. So this is even worse. The reality is even worse than what they're saying here. So, and 27.3% had serious delinquencies that were over 90 days past due. 27% seriously delinquent, 90 days past due or more. With a quarter, 26.2%, had debt in collections. That's a huge number of people behind on their debt payments. LendingTree Credit, Matt Schultz said, late payments can damage your credit score. One late payment can drop your credit score upwards of 180 points. Such a massive number. You can have a 750 credit score, have one late payment before you know it, you're in the 500s. What we're seeing though is on average it's somewhere between like 80 to 100 points. Still substantial, but it can go as high as 180 points. So more than a third of millennials, 36.7%, ages 27 to 42 last year, and Gen Zers, 36.2%, ages 18 to 26, had at least one delinquent account. Millennials were found to have the highest default rates on credit cards, 19.6%, auto payments, 7.8%, personal loans, 8.3%, and other debts, 27.9%. However, Gen Xers, ages 43 to 58, were most likely to be behind on their mortgage payments at 1.2%. In the face of cooling, albeit still high inflation and steep interest rates, a large number of Americans are struggling to keep up with their debt payments. LendingTree's senior economist said this is especially true for members of younger generations who might not have had incomes or savings. They really need to stay on top of what they owe. So you have to look at this. How are we not in the greatest wealth transfer in American history? How? Americans are in a worse position today by a landslide compared to 2007, right before everything kind of hit the fan. You look at the cost of rent back then, the cost of food, you look at incomes. Incomes have barely moved since 2007, but rents went from $700 to $1,500, $1,800. Car payments went from $150, $200 to now $700. And car insurance back then, for an annual policy, it was about $800 a year, right? So about $60 a month. Now it's $2,500 a year. Like everything has gotten crazy. Everyone is just, drunk on credit. But what's happening now is the creditors, the lenders, they're not getting their money back. So what are they going to do? They're going to continue tightening up credit on those that offer high risk. That's what's going to happen. So what I think is going to happen is we're going to see those with exceptional credit scores, those that have money, those that are rock solid borrowers, go out there and start buying up all these assets as things start to really unwind in this country. And that's how this great wealth transfer is going to unfold here. It's already starting right now. Nearly 30% of Americans behind on debt payments. But trust me, 2024, 2025, the next year or so, there is no soft landing. Janet Yellen said a soft landing is coming in 2007. She said this in September of 2007. A couple months later, basically the great financial crisis hit, right? They always say soft landing. All throughout history. They said it in the 1970s before everything hit the fan. They said it in the 90s, right before the great real estate crash. They said it in the dot-com bubble. Every single time, this is public information by the way, every single time right before a major financial crash, they claimed a soft landing. You look at how much debt is in this system. You look at where the American consumer really is. How can we have a soft landing? I don't see it. I don't see a way out of this that's going to be soft. What do you think? Do you think we're in the great wealth transfer? You think we're going to start to see millions of Americans forced to sell their homes, sell their cars? I'm betting on that. And I think if you make the right decisions, and if you have credit card debt right now and you're making the right calls, maybe looking at balance transfer options, you're looking at other ways, this is not a viable solution for anybody to pay some credit card company $45,000 over the next 23 years for $10,000 in debt. No, no, there's better ways. What do you think about this situation? Let's have a conversation about this. And if you'd like to fix your credit to position yourself, what I believe is going to be the greatest transfer of assets and the greatest wealth transfer in American history, we'd love to help position you to where you can get funding. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, or any negative item in your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com. And I'll catch you in the next video.